Okay, if you can see my slide and if you can see Elinor picture, if I can have again a little hand raised, please. Thank you very much indeed. Okay, good morning, everyone. This is my 40th webinar CPD talk on thought leadership for project professional. And this time again, I'm happy to host Elinor Moshe from Melbourne in Australia. And again, it's an honor. Elinor Moshe is the founder of the Construction Coach, podcast host of Constructing You, and author of Constructing Your Career. So quick agenda as we do, quick housekeeping, introduction, we'll have a quick survey as we do again as part of the webinar. We'll have a part 1, quick survey and discussion, part 2, quick survey and discussion as well, and we'll conclude. In terms of, again, thank you everyone for being here, as always, hugely appreciated, of course. There will be a certain attendance for about an hour plus. Please email me at neil@cpdtalk.com. And please email me after the CPD, not during the CPD, please. Also, Elinor, thank you again for giving back your time, your wisdom, your knowledge. Hugely appreciated from all of us today. I think most of you know who I am anyway, but I'm just going to go through it. Love construction, love learning, love sharing, love people. 18 years and a half now in the construction industry. Honored, privileged, and humbled to have you all today. I'm just going to do a quick Menti. Be good to see where you are. I know most of my colleagues are from Mauritius, but good to see where you're watching us from the world. So if you just go to menti.com, type in menti.com and use that code. I'm just going to switch screen now and go to menti.com for you to see where you are. So let me just make sure we just go through the screen. And here we go. So if you can just type in here 7093100. I'll type with you as well, and just let us know which part of the world you are. Obviously, all my colleagues are from Mauritius, but some of you are from different parts of the world. So as you can see the world map as well. Mauritius being in blue, meaning loads of you are from Mauritius. We've got a colleague from Nigeria, Australia, Adelaide. Again, there's a few colleagues from Australia as well, obviously following Elinor, Malaysia, South Africa. So yeah, please feel free, put your name as well, your first name. Be good to see Sri Lanka as well. Rupi from UK, thanks Rupi, to see you there. Congo, Guinea in Africa. So it's good to see you all here around the continent and around the world. Saudi Arabia, Kimberly, nice to see you. Yeah, so yeah, just put them in, and my next question will follow in about 30 seconds. It's a really good question. Elinor, you need to watch the second picture of the menti.com. I hope I surprise you on that one. But it's good to see all of you here. People, a colleague from Philippines as well, we can see. Zambia, good to see you guys. India. So pretty much we've got 4 continents watching us today. So thank you very much indeed as we start. So please put in your comments, and I'm shifting on to the next slides. So what does it mean to be a thought leader? You know, I've got 2 options for you open there. You can put anything. So what does it mean to be a thought leader? You probably see the faces there with some of the you know, global icon, and I've got Elinor picture there representing the construction industry. So what does it mean to be a thought leader? Again, if you can just use 7093100 and just put anything you want. So what does it mean to be a thought leader? Impact, influence, something Elinor can build on later as we're talking. Someone else put New Zealand, doesn't matter. Yeah, if you can just put any comment in. What does it mean to be a thought leader? Manage projects smoothly, okay? Influence, impact, participation, reaching new heights, a caring leader, accomplishment proactive, lead by example, communication. So all of that is good stuff. So right, so I'm going to stop sharing. I think influence is probably the biggest one because it's in blue and it's right in the middle. We've got passion as well and servanthood. So I'm going to stop sharing now and then move on to the next slide. Okay, so let me just switch on to the... Okay, so, and I think the modern thought leaders are speakers, podcasters, and social media influencers, casting a wide shadow, helping to shape and improve millions of lives between them. They have different areas of specialty, diverse background, and varied interests, but in their own way, each carry the torch of the hope, positive movement in their respective industry and values. Also, please make a note, everybody, on Elinor's podcast. And if you want to go on Apple and Android, definitely download those, because I'm going to share a few things with you on that as well. And Elinor says on that is one of the most common lesson part of my podcast, Constructing You, is having patience is absolute key. Being impatient can be quitting too soon when your result was just around the corner. Being impatient also reduces joy in the processes and the work. Patience is certainly a virtue. So this was the latest podcast from Elinor. I've listened to it 3 times now, and we had the CEO, Mark Pomeroy, and he talked about there's no such thing as perfection, only the pursuit of it. He talked about enjoy what I do, really wanting to be the best at everything that I do. It is the hunger to succeed is what drives performance, and really does keep me focused on success. He talked about in all industries an ongoing thirst for knowledge. Knowledge without question is power. It allows us to think more strategically, analyze more tactically, and ultimately to make better decisions. He also talked about invite and embrace any type of feedback, reflect on it, and try to use it like you normally give to me as well. This is on the podcast as well. It's free podcast by CEO, and it's all facilitated by Elinor from Australia. Mark also talked about a leader in my role. I rely heavily on the information I'm given. Whilst I want the information as quickly as possible, if you give me bad information, it is much harder to forgive than slow information. Put in their own word what I've asked them what to do. Take a few minutes and we all align. Invite and embrace any feedback. We talk about that. Dispute. He talked about dispute. Take the time to understand the other side perspective, and always staying level-headed, never raising his voice, and staying unemotional for dispute. And finally, his dad said to him, a lot of us work in companies, your practitioners, your employees, and directors. What Mark Dad said to him, a junior today will be a senior tomorrow. So they will remember who treated them with respect. And I'm sure we've been there before. So I think that's really good. And I think Elinor touched on that on the podcast as well. You can't change yesterday, but you can influence tomorrow. So this is Elinor podcast as well. She's got a website called elinormoshe.com, which I will obviously share with you. And then there's got a book as well, which again, we will send the link on the chat box. The book is called Constructing Your Career. I've read it and I've got a few quotes I'll share with you. The quotes are here, but again, I'm just going to look at the book will only, as I said, is why in the following ways. You're not afraid to do the work and can demonstrate enough discipline to get results. You won't quit when something doesn't work out for you after one trial. You're ambitious, driven, and dedicated enough to play the long-term game. The construction industry offers immense intellectual challenges that brings in construction, technology, architecture, business legalities, and even ethics all together from a management perspective. And finally, before I introduce Elinor, on that book as well, again, these are the few quotes during the presentation. What matters the most is your set of attributes, regardless of any industry you are. Cultural alignment to an organization and willingness to learn, very, very important. At entry-level position, companies aren't looking at your great technical aptitude that they can teach. They're looking for the unteachable, such as drive, ambition, hunger, passion, which is why your why matters. Why is very important. And finally, again on that, it is worth reviewing the feasibility of higher education in construction. It is a well recognized that a degree is not a requirement to start your career in construction. What you need is for someone to first give you a chance, and not applicable to any other industry. So before I introduce Elinor, I just wanted to share a video with you, and I really found that was impactful, and I want to share that with you before we start. So I'm just going to share my screen with you before we get on with Elinor. So if you can see the video, please again put your hands up, and as we go, here we go.
It's a harsh and unpleasant but necessary truth to acknowledge that the majority of professionals are nowhere in their career. There is no plan, there is no future, there are no wild dreams of any sort as to what they will want out of their career. They are just going from job to job, hopefully waiting for a promotion. They're not upgrading their skill set by any measure. There is no brand. They don't have any ability to impact or influence, and the list goes on and on. Well, this is the consequence of when professionals follow other professionals. If the blind are leading the blind, where are they actually going? Not far at all. If there is one thing that you want to start doing in your career in 2021, is to stop following the herd. Herd mentality gives you a false assumption of safety in numbers, but that is certainly not the case, because you actually have to ascertain, okay, what are the results that majority are getting? Are they just waiting around for a 10K increase year after year? Are they actually recognized for what they are doing? What are their results? Because if you don't want someone's results, then you also don't follow their thinking, and you do not want to follow what they have been doing to get to where they are. So if you feel like you are nowhere in your career, now is actually the time to ascertain, where is it that I first want to go? Who do I know that can help me achieve that? And what immediate and massive action do I need to take right now to actually start gaining momentum? Because if you do not move forward with audacity and velocity, then you are going to be significantly left behind in a market that is only getting far more amplified in competition, and one in which you certainly cannot rely on your goodwill or simply good talent in order to get you to where you want to go.
Okay, thank you very much indeed. Now I'm just going to present Elinor now. So let me just new share and go back to the slides. If I've got it, yeah, here we go. Again, if you can see my slide, please, please put your hands up, and if you've got the video correctly as well, that's fine, perfect. So just to let you know as well, Elinor was the top 100 women in Australia in 2020. That was right in COVID. She did a lot of work, and she inspired a lot of people as well. So she said she was humbled to be recognized in the 2020 top 100 women list by top 100 women. My business, The Construction Coach, is Australia's first construction coach. My number one best-selling book, Constructing Your Career, is a world first for careers in construction. Constructing You is the first podcast on the construction industry scene, focusing on the people behind the project, or to unveil who you need to become to achieve more too. Setting high standard of excellence, showing people what is possible, and contributing in ways that inspires. All is just the beginning. So this is the presenter here today. Elinor, if I can ask you to put your video. Elinor is an ambitious and driven thought leader and dedicated mentor in the construction industry. Her passion to guide, inspire, and direct future leaders and industry professionals to construct a career lead to her founding the successful platform, The Construction Coach. Elinor has been featured in the Australian National Construction Review, Property Council of Australia's Top 500 Women in Property Program 2019, Top 100 Women in Construction, and is frequently a speaker, guest lecturer, and panelist. Elinor is also the host of Success Broadcast Constructing You, and his book released in August 2020, which I've read and is fantastic. The book is called Constructing Your Career. Is one of its kind for people who want inspirational, practical action, and unconventional career intelligence to construct the career. She holds a Master's of Construction Management and a Bachelor of Environment from the University of Melbourne. So, Elinor, if you can just take it away. I don't know if you can share your screen, and if you can just, but before that, I'll just ask a question as well. Yeah, perfect. So, if you can just share, yeah, do you want to start? Okay, and I'm just going to launch a poll quickly as well, Elinor, to all of us, and allow you to vote. Can you hear us okay, Elinor?
Yes, I can, and I'll go for it. You can ask
Well,
a question.
So the question is, I'm just going to launch that to everybody here. And the question is, do you think anyone has the opportunity to become a thought leader? So the votes are in. Do you think anyone has the opportunity to become a thought leader? Please put your vote in. And I know some of you might not access it for geographical reason, but already 75% of you have voted. Do you think anyone has the opportunity to become a thought leader? And we've got about 5 seconds left before we conclude. And I think the result is quite amazing for Elinor to see. So do you think anyone has the opportunity to become a thought leader? I'm just going to stop holding. 90% of you have voted. So I'm just going to show the result now. And the result are here, Elinor. So 88% says yes, they want to be a thought leader, and they are looking for opportunities to become a thought leader. And 12% say no. So that's our first poll, and obviously we'll dive into other poll as we start. So Elinor, take it away. Thank you everyone, and thank you for being here. And can we have a big round of applause for Elinor from Melbourne today? All yours, thank you.
Thank you very much, Anil. Just let me sort out my screen. Can everyone see my screen?
Yeah, perfect. We can see your screen.
Yes, excellent. Well, again, Anil, it's always a pleasure to be in a webinar with you. You're certainly the host with the most, and I'm so glad that you shared, that video above all, because I also was in my career, and I was also in a point in time where I was nowhere in my career. I thought that I was actually tracking forward, but I was absolutely nowhere. I had no recognition. I had no influence. I was not able to actually.
Harsh and unpleasant, but necessary.
Sorry.
I was not actually, that's okay. I was not actually able to influence my own income either. And I got to a point in time in my career when I thought, this cannot be it. Everything that I work towards, the years, the time, the hours, there has to be more. And when I actually acknowledged that I wanted more out of my career, and that I knew that I had to actually step into my own power, did I actually come across the world of thought leadership. And for those who want to know how you can leverage thought leadership to make an impact and influence your own income in the construction industry, or of course non-cognate industries, then listen up. Because if you want to become more than just a technically apt person behind the projects, and if you want to become and be remembered and be known as someone who is exceptional, excellent, and exemplary, then listen in. In today's session with you, I want to talk to you about what the risk profile for professionals actually is. It is a very different market than what we actually thought it to be. I'm also going to give you an introduction into the world of thought leadership and the real opportunity that this affords ambitious professionals. I'm also going to deep dive as to why professionals actually need a brand and how this is conducive to you attaining a visibility in the global marketplace. But I'm also going to show you how thought leadership will allow you to influence your impact, your income, and of course, your own influence, and really project that on a global level. Now, before I proceed, everyone, please, in the chat box, tell me, do I have your permission to be blunt with you? Do I have your permission to be honest with you? And do I have your permission to be direct with you? Because I would love to come into this webinar and be direct with you and challenge some beliefs and be quite forthright that are holding you back. And of course, my intention is only so I can serve you, not disturb you. So if you agree and you're okay with that, type in yes into the chat box.
So of course, if you can say yes on the Q&A, please, as well. Thank you.
Yes, we've got 7 yeses. Fantastic. 10. Everyone's on board. Fantastic. Well, thank you very much for that. How it's going to work, if throughout my presentation, if I have said something that has caused you to think differently, if I have said something that you have not heard before, then I want you to write aha in the chat box. Please, this is also as interactive as it can be, because I want to know that you are with me and that you are listening, and I'm not just giving a fantastic presentation to Anil. There will be, of course, time for Q&A, so put that in the chat box and we will come back and answer all of that for you. Anil has done a fantastic job, as always, to share about me, so I won't go into more detail, other than for those who think that you need to start with any sort of grounding or any sort of anything to actually establish yourself as a global thought leader. Absolutely not. I came through the same academic system. I came through the same convention. I was someone who was also so strongly tied to societal expectations as to what I thought I had to be doing. So you do not need to come from any sort of remarkable background in order to become a thought leader. And we're going to be going into a lot more detail into that. And thank you for everyone who has been sharing your yeses with me. So let's start off with where we are today, because if we want to actually arrive at a different destination, we need to firmly know where it is that we are today. To simply be a professional in the marketplace is to have agency over your own career and to walk away from an intense and insane amount of opportunity that is available to you in your career. Now, when it comes to your career, you wouldn't build anything with outdated tools and practices. It's unsafe, it's high risk, and it certainly will not yield the desired results. Now, in that video that Anil so perfectly positioned for me in the lead up, if you want the results of the masses, then you'll also do what the masses do. What are the masses doing when it comes to their career? They're going into work, they're clocking out. They do that for 40 years on repeat. They do not spend more than $100 on their own development. They wait around for their employer to hand them their own development on their mindset, skill set, heart set, and soul set for them. This is the reality. This is the stark reality as to how most professionals are approaching their career. Now, we have to realize that being a professional used to be the epitome of a career success, because once upon a time in history, people were working in factories. The professional marketplace is a response to the industrial age. So once upon a time, being the person who can now work in an office and isn't in a factory, that used to be revered. Times have changed, haven't they? I think we can all agree on that. But there's also a lot of emphasis on the academic and the education system, and the assumption that if you get trained through the education system, then you have reached the epitome of career success. That is a fallacy, and that is one of the biggest scams and the biggest systems which is leading people astray. But you're thinking, if you only see yourself as a professional, that is a very dangerous world to live in. Because if you think that being a professional is the end of the line for you, you will be completely mistaken, and you are not even tapping into the surface as to what is actually possible in your career. Now, to further distill the notion of the academic system, realize that the education system was actually developed to produce laborers for capitalists. It was never designed to produce capitalists. So capitalists are people who make money from money. Laborers are people who make money from time. So when most people want to actually develop their career, what do they go and do? They go get another degree, but they're not actually realizing what the system is actually conducing. Now, COVID has, of course, brought around a very different marketplace for professionals, and many, for the first time in their career, have actually found themselves to be exposed and vulnerable, and they've realized that they're not ready for the absolute dips of a career, and they're actually realizing that they have found themselves at the behest of economic conditions. They have no contingency, no security, and certainly no plan for their career. So right now, if there's anything that you're going to do from today onwards, it's do not take on that conventional career intelligence that is both teamed with outdated practices, because it isn't going to safeguard your career anymore. Think about it this way. If tomorrow your employer says, we don't need you here anymore, where is income going to come from? Where is your work actually going to come from? And that could happen at any moment. There is a false sense of belief that actually working for someone else gives you security, but it actually is the most insecure of practices, because you're not in control. You are not in control by any measure. So if you want to run your career and play the same game as others who are giving away this agency, then you're also going to achieve the same results as others. And they are not magnificent. I do not follow the herd because the results of the herd are not magnificent. But the silver lining is, if you desire more, if you want to stand out, if you want to be heard, if you think differently, and if you are driven to create change at a project level, at an organization level, at a global level, then this is where the world of thought leadership comes in. Now, there is a lot of people who think they know what thought leadership actually stands for, but thought leadership is this. A thought leader is a person who is known for what they know, because what they know actually makes a difference. I'll repeat that for you. A thought leader is a person who is known for what they know, because what they know makes a difference. We all know these people in organizations and projects that their knowledge, every time you talk to them, it's just a fountain of inspiration, insight, and wisdom. And they also think differently. Now, thought leaders are people who have an idea or a message that is unique. And when you actually take that message and you position it properly in the marketplace and you use the right promotional strategies behind that, this is how thought leaders make an impact. This is how we also increase our influence and our income. Now, in the thought leadership world, which is different to other forms of business and employment, is that the thought leader is the center of the world. It is what we have to say, how we say it, to whom we say it, that actually makes the difference. We're highly visible because it is our visibility which brings together a community. But we're standing out for a cause, and this cause is bigger than us. It is a lifetime journey. It is a lifetime cause, because we know that we can do things in a very different way. So I have a question for you all, and please use the chat box to answer. Who right now look at the global construction industry? Who comes to mind when you think of thought leadership? Is there anyone who is doing this? Any authority figure that comes to mind?
Okay, guys, so if you can use the Q&A tab again to put in your comment, any thought leaders that come to mind after this great start from Elinor. So anything you would like to put on the Q&A, any thought leaders in your country or any part around the world that you'd like to put in on the Q&A tab. There's nothing yet, so yeah, none in my country. I want to be the first. Which country is that, Joseph?
Now, if you didn't think of someone within 5 seconds, yes, Elon Musk, he's not in construction, he's in the entrepreneurial world.
Yeah, so we've got Elon Moshe and Shah Jahan, who built Taj Mahal.
Yeah, he was a visionary, but not a thought leader.
Atunike says, none, to be honest, in Nigeria, when I think about it, really.
So by not actually identifying a thought leader within your industry, someone who ticks all these boxes, I hope that this highlights you the wealth of opportunity. You can be the first. You can be the first in many different arenas. People are not doing this. People are absolutely not leveraging what is available to them at the intersection between entrepreneurship and thought leaders to become the first for what they know and who they are.
And I know we've got a few more coming up. So we've got Derek Richard in the UK. This is from Cabo from Zambia. Rupert from the UK says, work is often too busy to actually read the great reads that hit the inbox. Arnab says Simon Sinek, and someone said Bill Gates.
Well, they're in not the construction industry, so I'm highlighting to you how much opportunity there is in the construction industry. Of course, in the tech industry, in the entrepreneurship industries, there are many leaders. And having a full-time job is no excuse to actually work on your mindset, your skill set, and what is important to you. There are so many people who have built empires whilst having a full-time job at the beginning. So simply going to work is not. Legan, who wrote Book Constructing the Team.
So this is, I think what he's saying is Egan, John Egan from the UK, with Michael Latham back in the days in 2000.
Yeah, but in the modern day, as we can see, really involved. First and foremost, to actually position yourself as a thought leader, you actually need to solve a problem. So as long as there are problems in an organization, in an industry, in a community, in a person, there are opportunities. And if you look at the project playground, how many problems are there? How many problems are there on project delivery from the sheer procurement model that we actually use? I mean, is it still working? Are there problems with contractors? Are there problems with supply chains? Are there problems with construction organizations and corporations? There is a problem in every single interaction and relationship that you look at on site. So for every problem, there is a solution, because we live in a universe of duality. Now, to position yourself as a thought leader, you actually need to start thinking about value creation. This webinar is creating value, podcasts, books, content, that is all value creation. But to do that, you actually need to embrace risk, and you need to move past your thinking and your box that you have built for yourself, which is your job title, which is security. To become a thought leader, we're not focused about us. This isn't about me. This is about the mission. This is about the vision. It's about the greater cause. Because to be recognized as a thought leader, you become recognized for your thinking, for your distinctive thinking. People who regurgitate the same memos, the same ethos, the same philosophy as other people, if you just sing the same song as other people, that's not being a thought leader, because you haven't elicited any new thoughts in other people. So this is how you actually start bringing entrepreneurial thinking into your work. And when you start standing up for a cause, you start bringing together a community. You start bringing together a strong following of people who will stand up for what you believe in and who will be part of your journey. So this is hopefully proving to you that you can't make your way up, not in an organization, not on a project, not in the global scale, purely via your merits, via your qualifications, because that is reliant on rote learning. We live in the social age. With an internet connection, an idea, and an online payment system, you can build an incredible legacy for yourself. But it first and foremost requires you to think differently. So I want you to actually take a moment and reflect, what are you doing?
And just a quick one, Elinor, just a quick one as well. If you just go back on your slide, you know, just if you can just a bit, why passion is so important, like why you need to have that drive to really succeed. I'm sure a lot of us are watching you today. I really want to know, I mean, I know you're super passionate, but where do you get that and why is it so important?
That's a great question. When you are passionate, you actually have an emotional connection to what it is that you believe in and what you are doing. And there are times when it's not diligence, it's not discipline that will actually get you through. It is passion. And passion comes from actually realizing your strengths, your purpose, your values, your life mission statement, your vision, and articulating that for yourself and actually conceiving that is one of the most powerful things that you can actually do for yourself, because that's how you tap into your internal reserves of your own potential and your own diligence and discipline that just never actually falters. You don't get tired because I'm doing something that is much bigger than myself. Because to put out content, to do podcasts, to sit down and write a book, to do everything that we do in order to have what we have, it's, you're climbing a mountain for the first few years. And if it's not driven by passion, people quit.
Right. Yeah. Thank you very much.
Are there any other questions, or should I continue to?
Yeah, please continue. Thank you.
No problem. I just realized it wasn't on full screen. So there was one question. If you do what you love, you'll never have to work a day in your life. You definitely work, right? We definitely work for it, but that's very true, Juan. But the difference is in the professional marketplace, you might love what you do for what, 20% of the time? But actually building a business, building a community, building a movement where you are passionate, then you get to do what you love 80% of the time. Now, I rather do what I love even 50% of the time than 20% of the time. So absolutely, it makes a big difference to the quality of life that you actually experience, because you certainly were not put on this planet in order to just burn and go into the, you know, the trenches every day, not loving what you do.
Exactly.
Now, part of positioning yourself as a thought leader is to actually stand out. And standing out involves marketing yourself. It actually involves positioning yourself and promoting yourself. Professionals do not stand out. They might think they do, but they're not standing out for the right reasons. And they're actually making sure that how they're carrying their brand is that they get misinterpreted and they get misunderstood. But when you actually build a strong and magnetic and compelling personal brand, which I will go into, then you stand out for all of the right reasons. You stand out for who you are, not just your degree and what you're qualified for, or, you know, were certified in what, 20 years ago? That's not relevant anymore.
Yeah.
Most of the professional marketplace and most people are actually devoid of personality. They are devoid of tonality, and they work so very hard to blend in and not stand out. And for a few years at the start of my career, I also worked so very hard to blend in. But when I was doing that, I was actually eroding my own soul. I was suffocating my own creative expression. And I worked so hard to not be seen because I was too intimidating. I was too much. And I thought, well, that's my problem. So I better turn it down for people because I don't want them to feel uncomfortable. I had it all wrong. And that's how I started feeling so depleted, so undernourished, so unfulfilled in my career. Now, most people have an adversity to self-promotion, but self-promotion isn't actually about yourself. It's actually in the name of serving other people.
Yeah.
And you have to realize who is going to do it for you. No one in this world wakes up and says, you know what? Today, I'm going to make sure that I'm going to promote Elinor. No one except me wakes up and does that. So if you're not actually creating your own visibility, if you're not actually creating your own positioning, no one in this world is going to do it for you. Because in the, in the thought leadership world, we're good at what we do and we are visible for it. So you have to stand out for a high level of expertise, because people come to you for actual results and they come with you for solutions. So you cannot just be a facade that has just this amazing brand, but there's no actual depth, there's no substance. Again, you'll only last in the game for a very short period of time. But think about what you're trying to achieve in your career. You just plan to be an expert, an invisible expert. That's not so great. Maybe 100 people know what you do. But imagine if 100,000 people knew what you did. And if 100,000 people paid you $10 for what you did, you can do the math on your own. 100,000 people is a big difference between 100 people in maybe the building that you work in knowing you, and that's it. So in the thought leadership world, we actually stand out in a way that is respectable, that is credible, and it is done in a very notable way, because that's how you start attracting influence. That's how you start bringing opportunities to you, into your world. You don't go hunting for opportunities. I mean, at first you do, but there comes a point in time when it starts tipping and opportunities come to you. They may be employment opportunities. They may be being tapped on the shoulder to come work on one of the mega projects. It might be the opportunity to speak. The opportunities are endless. But we do this because we can strategically build a brand and we come up with interesting ways in which we can actually add value. Now, a big part of standing out is having a personal brand. And like I said before, most professionals do not have a personal brand because they are not in a state of authentic self-expression. That's what a personal brand is. My brand is an extension of all of who I am. But most people don't know who they are because they never actually take any time to know who they are. And if you think you know who you are, tell me within one breath and one heartbeat, what's your life mission statement? What is your passion? What's your purpose? What's your mission? What are your core 7 values? What are your strengths? What is your zone of genius? If you can answer that then you do know who you are. Now, there was a study done by the Carnegie Institute of Technology, and they found that 15% of career success is based on your technical laurels, so your expertise. But the other 85% of your career success is actually your ability to lead, your ability to connect with people, your ability to negotiate, and your personality. Now, these are the elements that come across in your brand. Is anyone having an aha moment, or do we all know all of this?
Yeah, I've seen some aha moment coming through. So again, guys, if you've learned something new, just put aha on AHA on the Q&A, please. But yeah, I've seen some coming through. So yeah, we are getting the aha moments. I don't know.
We're getting aha moments. Fantastic. Everyone is still with me. Very good.
Yeah.
Now, when you have a personal brand, one that you have constructed with precision, you can actually control it, you can manage it, and you can actually have someone's interest in it. I mean, 102 of you are not sitting on this webinar because I was just a professional. Absolutely not. You probably saw my brand, you saw my name, you saw my book, you were curious. You were like, what does this person have to say? It is my brand that has already done 50% of that negotiation. Of course, I have to back it up. That is where that expertise actually comes in. So a personal brand creates this captivating essence, but a personal brand is about being all of who you are in the first place. And a personal brand is not just a color and a logo. It is actually an intensive process to capture and represent the person. And in the thought leadership process, we spend months. I spent 8 months building my personal brand, and I still continuously build and develop and refine my personal brand. Because as a thought leader, if you take away my brand assets, you take away my business, you can take everything away from me, I will still always have my brand. And with my brand, I can build anything that I want from scratch. Because when you have a personal brand, it allows you to build your influence, because people in your community, they don't know you passively. People actually know you quite actively, and they trust you, because the most powerful brands are that of consistency and ones that can actually build trust. Now, the professional world is sleeping. They are dormant to the opportunities of having a personal brand. But for those who choose to wake up and sacrifice and defer gratification in the short term, so in the long term, they can have what only other people would dream of, that is the path of self-actualization for your career. Getting a few aha moments, so very good, and a few questions. I look forward to getting to them at the end of, I should be putting this on full screen. I'm getting to that at the end of the webinar. Now, a big part of having a thought leadership practice is content generation. Now, content is the lifeblood of a thought leadership venture. And Anil, you asked me before we actually started recording, Elinor, how do you put out so much content? How do you actually put out this podcast for free? I mean, each podcast episode alone is hours. One podcast episode per week is more time invested than the average professional invests on their mindset and their skill set and actually working on themselves. One episode.
Wow.
But content is free. As you said, Anil, it's all free. Everything I post on LinkedIn, it's free. This webinar, it's free. As thought leaders, we are constantly giving. And content is the way in which we can build our communities. It's how we communicate our message. It's how we actually start to shift people's perspective. There are over 650 million users on LinkedIn, and this was at the time that I checked the statistics. But how many of those people do you actually think are producing content, not consuming content? Let me know your responses in the chat box.
So yeah, if you can just put your responses, how many of you are actually on LinkedIn, but are actually producing? So already we can see very low, I think, relative few. So generally the consistency is, we are not active enough, really.
It is very low. it's not even almost nil. It might as well be. You can do the percentage, but less than 1 million people on LinkedIn are content producers. 1 million out of pretty much every single person who is on LinkedIn. You do the percentage, that is negligible. Yet people look at the LinkedIn marketplace and like, there's already so many people who are already doing content. That's fantastic. Most people, when they do content, what they do, they just throw something against the wall and they hope that it sticks. They're just putting out anything. It's not in alignment with their brand. It's not in alignment with their philosophy, with their values, with their message, with their business, with their passion, with their purpose. That's content creation. Don't think that content creation is just, I'm just going to, put something out there and hope for the best. And that's how people actually get dismayed and they quit too soon, because their content hasn't actually been carefully constructed to be in total alignment and congruency. In my content, there is no disconnect between my brand, my voice, and my person, and my message, and what I believe in. Yeah. Nothing is out of kilter. Everything is synced. And that is the power of content. Because when people see your content for a long period of time, again, they don't passively know me. They actively know me. And that's how you also bring people into your world.
And Elinor, just a quick one, Elinor, we've got few, Ruan says not even 15%. All the guy who's used the figures, they are the QS. So Sunet again, QS from South Africa, 30% produce content. Someone says anonymous, almost nil. Matthew Botham, I can assume only 50% content consumed. Concept from Seychelles, very low. Paras from Mauritius, he's getting an aha moment. Ruan has gone right into detail, 0.0015%. Thanks, Ruan. Yeah, so generally the consensus is like, okay, it's very minimal. I think you've hit on the nail.
That's right. And yes, Ruan is in one of my masterminds and he's very good with the numbers. He's South Africa up and coming leader in this space. So everyone watch out for Ruan, because he's going to be taking the South African world by storm, and that is
just a quick one, Elinor. There's a question from Nufal. I think it's a good one. I'm a chartered QS. I'm on approximately 140,000 members across the world as part of the profession. How can I make myself stand out as a thought leader? I mean, you've talked about it already, but if you want to be part of that member, what would you advise? Writing blogs, be out there, do some content creation, I guess.
That's certainly part of it, but that's just the tactic. So what we don't want to start with is a tactic. So for example, a podcast is a tactic. I didn't start with a podcast. I didn't start with a book. I spent a lot of time with my mentor, and what I do with my clients as well, to actually have very clear certainty as to who are we solving a problem for? What is the problem that we're solving? What happens if we don't solve the problem? We actually go, we spend a lot of time in ideation phase and really understanding the mechanics of the problem. And then we actually work out in characterizing this. After we characterize it, we communicate it, and then we actually commercialize and capitalize on that. So if you're a QS, I think that's fantastic. There's no one who's really moved and shook up the quantity surveying industry for a very long period of time. Every opportunity, every avenue in the construction industry, from project management, quantity surveying, client-side projects, you name it, the opportunity is rife. But one thing that we do need to be aware of is positioning yourself as an authority. It doesn't happen by chance, and it doesn't happen purely by goodwill. There is a process, there is the science, there is an art to actually positioning yourself as a thought leader. It doesn't happen organically. And if you want it to happen organically, well, you make that decision. Do I want to wait around for 10 years and hope for the best? Or do I actually want to work with people who have the results that I have and tap into their knowledge and fast track the process? I have been doing what I have been doing for less than 2 years. That's it. That's not a period of time. And within those 2 years, I'm accounting for the time that I actually spent figuring out, getting mentored, understanding what the world of thought leadership actually entails: refining my thinking, the problem, communicating it, the branding. That's it. So you can either do it organically or you can either do it strategically, because authority and visibility and influence is a very precise piece of construction. It doesn't happen purely because we think we want to create influence one day and we just wake up and we do it. It doesn't work like that. The last part that I really want project personnel, ambitious project personnel, is right now in your career, as I said at the start, if your employer was to take out the rug from under you, you have one lever in your career to influence your income, and that is gone. The only way for you to influence your income all over again is to go out and get another job. You are not in control of that. You are not in control. But when you actually have an idea, and when you have branded that, when you have characterized it, when you are then communicating it to people, you have the results, you have what people want, and this allows you to start building levers into your career to actually influence your income. Right now, I have multiple levers in my career that if I want to generate more income for myself, then I can do that. And if you actually think, well, money isn't important, fantastic. What do you plan to do at 60 when you have no retirement funds, when you don't have the life and lifestyle that you actually want to lead, you haven't invested when you could have? What are you going to do then? What are you going to do when the money runs out?
Yeah.
So if you think that income and generating it for yourself and controlling it now isn't important, that's fine. Just run the risk analysis when you're 60 or 70 and you can't even afford to go on a holiday anymore. So don't think that if you're just getting paid a salary every month, that your future, that your retirement, that when you're 50, 60, 70, what about if you can't work? Then what?
Yeah.
Don't actually think that you can rely on a monthly salary. That might be comfortable and fantastic for now, but for now, well, we know what happens if you stay in your comfort zone. But when you actually are the nucleus, when you actually have a business, what you can then do is you start creating intellectual brand assets, which allows you to bring income in. For example, a book, a podcast, a YouTube channel, a TV show, a guide, a course, a mastermind, a mentoring program, one-on-one, two-on-one. You can consult back into your industry. You can go from earning $30 an hour to charging $300 an hour. So there are lots of opportunities available, and in this world, you create it. I created my podcast, I created my book, I created my programs, I created my masterminds, I created my collaborations. I work with many collaboration partners. We both then benefit from that, but we can because we have a community, we have a message, we have positioned ourselves differently.
That's right.
And when you position yourself as a thought leader, you can speak. The speaking industry is one of the most lucrative industries because who has something to say? Again, it is not the average professional. No one is going to pay to come and hear them speak. They have nothing to say. And even if they might have a high level of expertise, how many people do we know that will just put us to sleep when they're speaking? They're not captivating. Exactly. The minute that meeting, whether it's the meeting, the presentation, the conference is over, you've already forgotten that it has happened. I have people remember that I lectured 2 years ago. I don't, but they do. It allows you to speak with impact. So this has been a very high level foray into what the thought leadership industry can actually afford you. Because as my mentor, Ron Malhotra puts it, you can become a traditional employee, you can become a traditional entrepreneur, or you can become a thought leader. If you only thought there were 2 ways in which you can have a career, I hope I brought in a third way, and one where there is no ceiling, but only opportunity and the chance to impact and create influence in so many ways that I can even articulate within one presentation. So Neil, let's do some Q&A.
Yeah, so let me just, if you can just stop sharing, if you can just stop sharing your screen, and then we can just, like, everybody can see us. I'll start with my Q&A first. I mean, we talked about earlier, and a lot of people asking me a question like, you put a colleague as well from the UK, you're doing that, or there's a lot of things you do for free, you're giving back. and you do lots of podcasts, and everyone watching us right now and hearing me, and do go on the podcast, right? Do connect on the car with your Bluetooth instead of listening to beautiful songs. I mean, you can, but the podcast is really good because we are learning as we're traveling, and it's a new way of learning. But my question to you, Elinor, is how do you get the time to put that podcast together, get the speakers, organize them, and get to talk to them? I mean, it's similar to me when I'm doing a webinar, but I think it's good to share your energy to us today.
Well, first of all, I know why I'm doing my podcast. My podcast is the opportunity for me to connect, for me to impact. I know the transformation that can ensue for people who listen to the podcast. So it's important to my overall mission. And I made a promise to my community that I would show people what is possible, and that I would show them that who you have to become in order to achieve what you want. I've made a promise and that I would deliver on that. And I am a person of integrity and quality. I'm going to do that. But my podcast, in my weekly doings, it's a priority. And anything that you actually, if you make it a priority, it will get done. It's no different to showering. People shower automatically. You don't make the decision every day, you know what, today I'm going to shower. Oh, we hope. So it's the same with my podcast. I attend to my podcast like I do anything else. It is just a daily habit. And what people need to realize is, you know, I share the story when I actually wanted to start a podcast. This was in October 2019. That's when I got the idea for it. And I started recording in February 2020 before COVID hit. I was already thinking back then, I'm so busy, like how can I possibly fit it in? But then I was actually operating out of a place of lack, and I was realizing that, no, I can do it. There's no reason why I can't, because we as humans, we expand, we rise to our challenge. When we actually put our minds towards something that we want more, our brain creates new neural pathways to allow us to happen. We're not fixed beings. We are growth individuals. And of course, my podcast is just something that I will continue to do for as long as I can.
Another question I would like to ask you, obviously you've just turned 30 years old and you've been doing this work for the past few years since you left university. You've just turned 30 in January 2021. For many out there, for many young people watching us today, what's the message there? Like, can I say that if you're good enough, you're old enough? I mean, because a lot of people are scared, like they don't want to apply for this job because, like, you know, it's a too big a risk for me. What's your advice to all of us today? Like, even if you're young, you can take on the world, right?
100%. And it has nothing to do with age, because I look at people who may have years of experience, but what is actually experience? Do they have 20 years of experience, or do they have 1 year of experience repeated 20 times?
Yeah.
It's not about the years, it's about the thinking. And I can be in conversation with people who are, excuse me, a lot older than me, but you look at their thinking, they have limitations, they have limiting beliefs, they haven't actually achieved anything in their life, they don't even know what they want, they don't know what their values are, they're unhappy with their work. So I'm not fazed by age or experience. The thing that I look for the most is results. What results do people have consistently in their life? There are people who are 20 and have already achieved incredible things in their career. But what people, regardless of where they are you going to actually start now? Or are you going to continue to waste time? And then you'll be 80, sitting in your retirement home wondering, where did that all go? I did nothing.
Yeah, and this also applies to practitioners who are already in their mid-40s, mid-50s, mid-60s, mid-70s. Again, anything is possible, right? I mean, we can just start afresh.
Oh, 100%.
Excellent, thank you. I'll take two questions before we move on to part two. There was a question from Maury. Will the dress up with formal make serious impact on personal brand? So if we dress up properly, does that make an impact on our personal brand? If yes, why employees in Google, like companies in Facebook, don't wear formal stuff? They wear shirt. And then, so what's the comparison there?
So there are some people who feel at home in a three-piece suit. I, for example, feel very at home in a suit. I struggle to dress casually, and I'm not a casual person. So how I dress is also a reflection of my brand. It doesn't actually matter about the organization or any of that. How you actually dress and how you choose to present yourself, that is a reflection of how you see yourself. And it is also a representation of your brand. And your personal style statement is a very big part of how you communicate to other people. But to know that, you actually need to spend a lot of time knowing yourself and knowing who it is that you are and how you want to communicate to other people. So it's not that dressing casually is right, dressing formally is wrong. There's no right or wrong. This is an individual, this is something that is very individual and very different to every single person.
Okay, thank you very much indeed. Let's move on to part two. Before you move on part two, I've got a quick survey as well, which I'd like to share with everybody. We've got about half an hour to go, and I'm just going to share this with you, everybody. So if you can just vote, please. Do you think positioning yourself as thought leaders will allows more career opportunities? Do you think positioning yourself as a thought leader allows more careers opportunity? So again, if you could just do that, that'd be great. And obviously 35% of you have voted. Do you think, obviously having listened to Elinor now, do you think now positioning yourself as a thought leader allows more career opportunities? And already 85% of you have voted. I'm just now going to end polling and share the results. Okay, so the results are here again. So it's 16% don't think they are pushing yourself as a thought leader, and 84% says yes. So what's your thought on that, Elinor?
Well, to the 84%, I think that's fantastic, and you have a very exciting time ahead of you. But to the 16%, well, I have a lot of questions. Are you operating out of a mindset of limitation and lack rather than seeing opportunities? Is your mindset and your worldview so conditioned by conventional systems that even when opportunity is presented, you have a high level of skepticism towards it? So those who see the opportunity, ask yourself a question: what do I actually want? Do I wish to be doing what I want to be doing for the rest of my life? Do I want to be operating out of a modality of lack and scarcity, or do I actually want to expand and grow? But of course, this world is not for everyone. It absolutely isn't. There are people who have no interest in creating impact, in leaving a legacy. There are people who don't want to influence. So there are, this world certainly isn't for everyone. And that's why I said at the start, this is for ambitious professionals. This is for people who want more, not for people who want less.
Awesome. And I'll do the penultimate poll. I've got the last one on the part two. So this one is, with how your career is tracking right now, is that how you always wanted it to be? So I think this is what you started with, the personal brand and everything else in terms of thought leadership. Do you want to really stay stagnant, or we want to move on? With how your career is tracking right now, everybody where you are at that current stage of your career, is that where you always wanted to be, or are we looking at the next level now? And this is what Elinor has just educated us, is like, we're gonna need to be going and get that, the next level of a career, and really, be becoming someone better, better ourselves in a way. So I've got 15 seconds left before we close the polling. With how your career is tracking right now, is it how you always wanted to be? And I'm just gonna end polling. This one is I'm going to share the result with you, and it's upside down. So let me share the result. So 33% says yes, but 67% of you today, out of 100 and plus, says no. What's your thought on that, Elinor?
Well, if you're not happy with your career, then what are you actually going to do about it? Are you actually just going to keep on accepting this level of mediocrity? Are you actually going to take massive and immediate action to do something else for your career? Because no one is going to do it for you. It has always been up to you to get into the driver's seat of your career, take agency and take responsibility, extreme responsibility of your career, because you deserve to have a fulfilling career. You deserve to be recognized for who you are in your career. But one thing that you need to realize is that the thinking that got you to where you are today, that's not the same thinking that will get you to the next level of your career. Same inputs, same outputs. So if you don't want the same outputs, you have to start changing your thinkings and actually move out of your own way and out of your own limitation and lack, and actually want more from your career. And that requires you to do something differently today, not in 5 years.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Elinor. Let's move on to part 2 swiftly. Thank you, everybody. We've got about 20-25 minutes left before we complete the presentation. So, Elinor, all yours.
So I did part 2 already, Anil. I paused at the middle. So we've done part 1 and 2 already. So we can continue to Q&A.
All right, so perfect. I've got a few questions then. The other question is personality development in right. So Matthew Botham is saying, personality development, how do you determine it and how do you go about it?
So there's no such thing as a right personality or a wrong personality. I mean, if you look at Steve Jobs was apparently a monster to work with. He was erratic, he was emotional, he was very difficult to work with, he would throw chairs in meetings. You wouldn't, is that a right personality or is that a wrong personality?
Exactly.
I mean, bandwidth, why are we even assessing personality, which is something so dynamic and so uniquely given and embedded into us, as right or wrong? There is no such thing as a right or wrong personality. But yes, we do need to work with mentors to actually, who know how to extract our personality, to actually hold up a mirror and to show us this is who you are, because we are our own worst people, to actually hold up a mirror and for us to see who it is that we really are.
Okay, thank you. There's a question from Sunette. You say people hire for passion and drive. However, at the end of the day, the job market still look at your qualification and where you got your degree. How do you market yourself so that they look past that and look at your experience only?
Good question. So I didn't say that people hire for passion and drive. It is the passion and drive which allows you to keep on persisting throughout any adversity and any challenges. Now, yes, of course, you need to have a level of expertise, but your expertise doesn't come from your qualifications or what was actually addressed at university. And in my book, I speak about the 4 factors of massive career success. 1 is what you know. 2 is who you know. 3 is who knows you. And 4 is who you are. Who you are and who knows you, they are the important factors that allow you to get headhunted, not for you to go out hunting. Except most people rest themselves on their technical laurels, and they think that if I just get another degree and another certificate, then people are going to notice me. They will not. All right, so go back to the start of my presentation where I spoke about the risks of professionalism, of purely doing that. You want to position yourself, you want to stand out, then you need to actually understand and apply. There's over 50 elements that are involved in positioning yourself as a thought leader. And this is what we work with our mentees with. So they are actually seen for their message, their philosophy, and no one looks at your qualifications. I mean, I don't think anyone stayed on this webinar for nearly what will be 1.5 hours because I have 4 types of certificates. No one asked me, did they?
Yeah, exactly. Okay, there's a question from Nick, and Nick has been talking about the construction industry. Construction processes are not often open to innovation, but I think the biggest opportunity is to influence change in the field of communication and productivity. A thought leader would probably stand out in the field of human interaction rather than technical innovation. What do you think?
You can stand out for anything that you are passionate about. It doesn't matter if it's on a human level or if it's on a concrete level, like literally concrete. You can stand out for whatever it is that you are passionate about. Except the difference is, in a traditional model of entrepreneurship, you might have a product or a service that is at the core of that. And everyone knows the product or a service. But in the thought leadership world, it is the individual, it is the founder, it is the entrepreneur, it is the executive, whatever it is, that first and foremost gets noticed. And then you find out about their business, whatever it is that their business does. For example, how many of you know Elon Musk? I dare say everyone knows the household name of Elon Musk. And then you realize he's got a rocket company, he's got, I don't even know, he's got Tesla, he's got so many companies, but everyone knows Elon Musk. He is the innovator, he is the thought leader, he is the revolutionary person. Everyone knows Steve Jobs, but does everyone know all the companies that Steve Jobs has? No. Who the CEO of Samsung is? No one, but we know what a Samsung phone is. So it doesn't matter what arena, if it is a product, if it is a service, if it is, you know, it doesn't matter, because you're solving a problem, and problems can be solved in different ways, shapes and forms. This is certainly not just about the human, right? So there are some leaders thought leaders who work with individuals and individual problems, but others are certainly about a technological innovation. They might have a product. There are no bounds.
There's a common question coming up, and I think that's a good question coming from Seychelles, from a colleague there. Getting on another level make people anxious. How do you deal with that anxiety, like, you know, the fear of obviously taking risk?
Well, that's a reflection of your mindset. So yeah, you need to do a lot more work on having an undefeatable mindset, because when you're anxious, well, that means you have an underdeveloped mindset. You are not actually in control of your emotional state. You're operating out of a place of lack rather than abundance. And you're also simply not comfortable with taking on risk in order to get the reward. So that's really a high level answer. Mindset is a huge topic, but every time I go on to the next level and every time I want to do something else, of course, I'm human. There's always that energy of a little bit nervous or I'm a little bit anxious, but I push through it. And that is the difference. Because if I didn't have anxiety, or if my hands weren't sweaty when I sometimes wanted to have a conversation with, you know, on a webinar, whatever it is, then it means I'm not emotionally connected with it. So the nerves and the anxiety, it's a good thing. I welcome it, but I push through it.
Okay, thank you very much indeed. I'm just gonna, again, we've got 40 minutes left because today we'll get to 1 hour and 30 minutes. I've got a few more slides and a video for you, Elinor. So have a quick breather. And I'm just gonna obviously show a few bits and pieces of your work before we conclude. So we've got about 30 minutes, everyone, before we conclude. So let me share my screen quickly and then get over to where we started. So here we go. So I'm just gonna share the screen from current slide. Here we go. This was in the middle of the books where I wanted to share, you know, the construction and property industries are people industries after all. And it doesn't apply just to construction industry, everybody. It also applies to wherever you are working. So I know there's quite HR. Today we have HR watching us, Elinor. We have people from human resources, educators, lecturers, and teachers as well in the webinar today. The construction and property industries are people industries after all, except when we look at our built environment as the project that is completed, it is always the name of the company that gets promoted. Of course, every individual cannot be named if you were telling someone who built it, but there's not enough discourse on the importance of the people behind the project from many perspectives, which was one of the fueling items of my podcast. And you hit it on the nail, because like there isn't enough tribute for people to put that building together. And I think, again, everybody, if you want to read that book, Elinor mentioned about I have worked on projects that were on paper difficult to say, the least, where everything could go wrong when it did, and then continue to go pear-shaped. But the people I work with were all exemplary. Everyone wanted to come to the face of the battle of a project day in, day out, because of the strong leadership and ownership displayed by everyone on the team. Today, I still consider it to be one of my favorite projects to have delivered. Again, I love this quote. And finally, on this one, then there have been projects where I've worked on that on paper are considered to be career-defining, great project, and a project most people will yearn to go on. Yet the lackluster leadership team and lack of formative culture conducive to delivering exceptional results made facing that project day in, day out nothing less than a goal. So it's quite an amazing, and quickly your thought on that, on the statement of your book, Elinor. what advice would you give to people in terms of getting experience? Does it need to be a really great project, career defining, to really get on it? You can do the small step, brick by brick, block by block, to get there.
Absolutely. And it always comes back to, what do you actually want? What do you want to work on? What do you actually want to impact? What do you want?
Yeah, thank you. And again, this is again the clear code there, but I think if you look at the the bottom one, for you, it will be, why do I want to develop and succeed my career in construction? What does it mean to me? Why am I doing this? Maybe there was something in your past which has pushed you here and sparked that interest. Very powerful as well. We've done part 2, Elinor, we've done the survey. I've got one more survey. This is the book. We will send you the link. There's a few more quotes. I'm not going to go through all of it, but this is important. The second one, where it says, in my opinion, that's what Elinor says in her book, your technical aptitude only account for 10%, because we can teach technicality to anyone who has an ability to comprehend. Whether they're interested is a different story. Where people falter as they move up the chain is they continue to solely rely on the technical skill to attain progression, higher remuneration and recognition. So, Elinor, just quickly, what's the 90% then?
It's your personality, it's your impact, it's your influence, it's your value, it's your message, it's your philosophy, it's your ability to connect, it's your ability to lead.
Wow, awesome, thank you. And then 2 more quotes there. What matters most today is who you are. Your personality, your values. You just sit it on the nail here. So exactly what you just said. You know your book by heart. And then the second one is, if you don't make the time to work on creating the life you want, you're eventually going to be forced to spend a lot of time dealing with a life you don't want. That's from Kevin and Go. Again, there's more there as well. But the last one, for me to write this book, it was all I did, day in, day out, until it was done. Because when you become obsessed, you do the most important thing, taking action on your goal. Most people don't realize that they goal because they don't do enough work or any. Just quickly on the obsession. Were you that obsessed?
If you don't have a burning desire for what you want to achieve, if you only have a lukewarm or just interested in it, you won't achieve what, people don't even dare dream of.
Wow. All right, so thank you very much indeed for that. I want to show you a video, everyone. This is a great video in terms of influencing from Elinor before we kind of really conclude and announce the last question. So I'm just going to share screen back to LinkedIn, and I think it's really worth sharing that video. So let me see if that get back to LinkedIn. Here we go. And if you can hear the sound and the noise, please also let me know as well. And I'm just going to go back there now. Here we go.
Employer took out the rug. What would you do if tomorrow your employer took out the rug from under you? What would you do if your main source of income was actually gone, just like that, in an instance? And if 2020 has shown us is that this is a bold reality for many professionals, regardless of their years of experience, regardless of how technically apt they were, that obviously didn't hold stand when employers had to make critical decisions as to who had to stay and who had to go. Now, this isn't your employer's fault. It is actually your fault that you haven't built the skill set, you haven't built any more levers into your career in order to influence your income. If income through your career is only coming via one stream, that is extremely risky behavior. Now, you can keep on doing that. You can keep on relying on that month-to-month salary, or you can spend 1 to 2, maybe even 3 years actually learning the skills, crafting a brand, having an idea in which you can influence your income. Now, in order to actually understand that you can influence your income, you first and foremost have to know where your income comes from. Your income is a byproduct of the value that you add to a marketplace. So if you can actually add more value than anybody else in the marketplace, you can, of course, be compensated well for that. But at the moment, if the only value you are adding is to your employer, then of course the income is going to be limited. Now, is this a risk you want to keep on running in your career, especially when the uncertainty, the likelihood of pandemics is going to be much more frequent? Is that a risk you're actually willing to take in your career?
Wow. So again, awesome presentation there. I'm just going to go back to the slide before we conclude. So again, big round of applause for Elinor on this. I really love that video, Elinor. We just want to do a final conclusion there, and I think I picked that up as well. So what Elinor says there is that your competition isn't other people, it's against your own time, self, and potential. And what Elinor goes on to say, I carry very little concern for what others are doing and stay powering on in my own lane. You have to power in your own lane because we have that mindset about, oh, what others are thinking. What Elinor goes on to say, only competing against the future version of myself, you too can move faster if you stop concerning yourself with what others have and carrying a laser-like focus on yourself. Elinor, maybe a quick word on that, why we just need to stay on our lane and keep focusing.
That's the only way you'll actually get ahead.
Wow. Thank you very much indeed. And I think...
Daniel, would you give me screen share ability?
Pardon?
Would you give me screen share ability?
Yes. Yeah. So if you want to share, I've got one more question before we get to you. And I know you've been asking those questions to everybody, but I'm going to ask you this question today. What is the key building block, whether in your personal or professional life, that has been imperative in getting where you are today?
My discipline.
Discipline.
It is my discipline, which has always kept me ahead of the game. It is discipline which forges consistency. It is discipline which allows me to be in a constant pursuit of what I want. I don't give up.
Wow, thank you. You've got something to share with us, because I think, again, we want to, as we conclude, we've got 4 minutes to love to see. I'd love to be part of Elinor's journey, but do you want to be a thought leader? It's actually doable. It's nothing impossible. So any of us would love to be part of that. And already 60% of you have voted. Do you want to be a thought leader based on what you've seen today? So please, 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 we've got about probably 15 seconds left before we get all of it. And 75% of you have voted. And I'm just going to end voting now. So what do you think the result could be, Elinor?
Hopefully more towards positive than the negative.
Okay, I'm going to share the result now. And the result is 98% says that they want to be thought leader. And there's only 1% who says they don't want to be a thought leader. We need to speak to that person and they need to come to that training.
Well, if you want to be a thought leader, then I look forward to working with you at the Authority Builders session. So for those who want to position themselves as a thought leader in the industry, I look forward to seeing you at your exclusive session with me. Remember, there were only 6 available. So first in, best dressed.
Wow. Okay, Elinor, so let me just, before we conclude, I'm just gonna got one final thing for you. And I just want to share this screen quickly. If you can see the screen there for the menti.com, Elinor, can you see that?
Yes.
You can see everyone there with a picture and everybody else there as well. Why influence has been like the biggest, because people have voted for influence, that's why it's right in the middle. Why is it so important? Is it to inspire, to say, look, it's possible, it's doable? What's your thought on that?
The fundamental duty of a leader is to actually influence, and influence is constructed very diligently and specifically. Influence is not goodwill, because if you want to be a leader, if no one is following you, then you're not a leader. So if you want people to actually go where you are going, that means projecting influence. Okay, thank you. So everybody, as you can see that, I'm just going to go back to finish off the slides and just making sure you've seen my slide. Elinor, you've answered the question is, this is the key signature where you've said discipline, discipline, discipline. I love that because this is really a good question. And a lot of you need to think about that in terms of your question. So thank you, Elinor.
I just wanted to say I'm super impressed by your kindness, energy, confidence, extraordinary resilience, sheer willingness, great determination to keep sharing consistently your experiences, wisdom, knowledge, and for being a global role model against all odds. So from the bottom of my heart and on behalf of all participants today, thank you for inspiring us and re-energizing us on a Saturday, despite the 7 hours gap. So take care, be safe, thank you. And this is the book from Elinor as well. And I'm just gonna stop sharing. And can we have a big round of applause for Elinor, everyone, on this 1 hour and 30 minutes of CPD talk today. There has been lots of questions coming in. Of course, please send your feedback through WhatsApp or email to me, which I will then forward to Elinor. Also, please email me your certificate attendance, which will issue part of the feedback and everything else. Elinor, what's your final word to all of you? Where are you contactable? What's your final word and your word of wisdom, please?
Your community is more than welcome to get in touch. I am on LinkedIn, Elinor Moshe, Instagram at Elinor Moshe _, and of course, my website is elinormoshe.com. And if you actually want something to change, well, nothing changes if nothing changes. If you actually want to bypass the time and get to where you want to go faster, then you actually need to take massive and immediate action today and do whatever it takes at whatever cost. Otherwise, you'll be having the same conversation and still voting no if you're happy with your career this time next year.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you. I mean, I wish that the webinar could have gone for hours and hours, but we've just shown that the way technology works. Today is my 40th webinar, so you've made a historic figure for me, Elinor. So I want to thank you all for being here, participating. It's been super engaging. Thank you, Elinor. Until we see you next time. And of course, I'll be obviously joining you and hopefully colleagues joining you for your training, which basically slashed by 2/3 of the price. So thank you very much indeed. We'll keep in touch. We'll send you an email. Please send your feedback and your email for certificate. Thank you. Have a great Saturday. Thank you, Elinor. Take care. Thank you very much indeed. Bye.